But John is now at this point the most experienced control in Cenex history. He's worked the last 4 or 5 of these, and John actually has a sense of the battle rhythm that I'm not sure too many of the rest of us have. I want to thank the Army fellow, Craig Simonsgaard. I'd ever hear these words come out of Craig's mouth, but at some point earlier today, he thought maybe all of you were a little too militant. Which I found really refreshing in a number of ways. And lastly, because she's traveled a long way and put up with a lot of stuff all week, simply to come out here and do her 3rd Cenex, and who brings a great deal of observations from the outside world, having a vast resume I won't bore you with, but you are all the beneficiaries of the excellent input and observations of Dr. Edwina Campbell. And then obviously, Russ not only graced us with an excellent presentation last night, but he's been by, saw you play Friday, and he came back this afternoon. And Russ, if you've got a few remarks or observations, or I did not put you on the spot, it's up to you.
No, that's fine.
Okay, fire away.
No, I thought it was a great exercise. It's really interesting. I think the most important thing, obviously it's not completely real world. It went a little bit more militant than I would have expected to. Yeah, and it's odd for the State Department guy to have to come in and be like, hey, Boko Haram, be more extremist. No, I think it's a great exercise, and I think that going through all these scenarios and having to come up with things, and also seeing what you're putting out press releases, and you see some of the frustrations, and the military side of this I thought was really interesting, because there's always this sense that as the U.S. we have to do something, which is a very real feeling that we have in the State Department. The hard part, though, is that it's really hard to execute something out in the field, or to get others on board sometimes. In a real world scenario, it's not too hard to get the Department of Defense on board if you have a CT issue, or there's certain things that we, in Africa at least, that I'm limiting all this to Africa, of course. But if the CT issue in Africa, there's issues, there's ways, there's involvement. Trying to get a real military force in to deal with 120,000, strong Boko Haram at some point would have been a totally different story. And then you also have the tensions between the agencies, which is just too hard to simulate here. So it's not one voice that the U.S. would be speaking with at all. You'd be dealing, and I know you have within the U.S. team, you have these different, sections, but that would just be far more difficult, I think, to come up with it. I think again, Boko Haram had it easier because they were coming up with creative ways to destroy stuff. A little bit easier. But anyway, those are the basic comments. So I thought it was a great exercise, though. If you have more questions, please let me know. And I've passed around my email to a few of you, so feel free to hand it to others and let me know if you have more questions.